Spending £2 million on a restaurant retrofit, Nigel Nieddu believed he was investing in his culinary dreams. The entrepreneur envisioned an upmarket dining club that would become the talk of rural Hampshire, a place where the elite would gather to indulge in classy, modern British cuisine. But Nigel's grand aspirations quickly collided with a harsh reality. The wealthy locals didn't flock to his exclusive dining club as he had anticipated.
The feedback was, wow, this is the most amazing place, we're all going to be coming here, and then none of them did.
Forced to pivot and adapt, Nigel rebranded the venue as the Granary, a 200-seat restaurant, making it the largest venture Gordon Ramsay had ever undertaken for kitchen nightmares. Martin, the restaurant's head chef, acquired his culinary skills in prison. Two troubled teenage chefs, Pete and Paul, with criminal records and a history of rebellion, slouch in the kitchen and treat Gordon's arrival with open disdain.
Guys, you want to listen or...?
Yeah, we are listening.
Show some respect. Yeah. Are you just going to stand up and push your pants? Can't stand up or...?
Despite Martin being a locally trained chef, the menu features dishes from around the world instead of highlighting local fare, leaving potential patrons puzzled as to the actual direction of the restaurant and hesitant to try. Nigel doesn't seem to think there's much wrong with the place.
Granary's the biggest shithole in Hampshire. This is how I run my fucking restaurant, it's not true! That's why you're in this shit, you fucking fat idiot!
The Granary's massive size, once a point of pride, now serves as a glaring reminder of its emptiness and the scale of Nigel's miscalculation. Bewildered by the restaurant's lack of success, despite his substantial financial investment, Nigel grapples with its underwhelming performance. In a last-ditch effort, he called in Gordon Ramsay in September 2007, hoping the acclaimed Michelin-starred chef could salvage his failing business. As Ramsay's car pulls into Titchfield, he says he's in the mood for a laid-back British country lunch. According to him, this region, on England's southern coast, has some of the best produce in the country. Despite losing £4,000 a week, entrepreneur Nigel hasn't cut back on his luxuries and offers to show Gordon the restaurant from his private helicopter upon his arrival. As they fly over the affluent area below, Gordon begins to understand why Nigel initially turned his restaurant into a private diners club, charging a £2,000 membership fee for rich and famous members to experience the finest food, drink, and company. The celebrity-packed launch party gave Nigel confidence, attracting the likes of 1990s glamour model Katie Price, known as Jordan, who made a bold entrance by flashing her underpants. Despite generating initial excitement and attracting a handful of celebrities for its launch, the Granary struggled to retain patrons. The restaurant's exclusive reputation, rather than drawing in the desired clientele, was pushing the local community away. The expected surge in membership never happened, leading Nigel to drop the mandatory £2,000 joining fee. Unfortunately, the venue had developed a snooty reputation by then, which it couldn't shake. When the helicopter trip ends, Nigel guides Ramsay through the Granary, showcasing Nigel's unique design choices.
We were aiming for sort of Monty's or Soho House.
What is that on there?
Leather.
Leather walls?
Yeah.
Bloody hell.
Heading to an empty upstairs hall, Ramsay criticizes the decor as stiff and stuffy, unlike the chic, modern London members' clubs Nigel hopes to copy. Nigel responds defensively, taking the criticism personally. Regardless, though, it's the food that counts, and after a long trip, Ramsay is hungry and wants lunch. Therefore, after the tour, the two sit down to eat. The problem is that Nigel's so-called British menu includes 60 dishes taken from other cuisines around the world. As such, Gordon starts with the Moroccan chicken and asks Nigel what is modern British about it. Nigel doesn't have an answer. Then the next dish arrives.
Oh dear, this is Nigel's idea of a modern British classic. Cheesy shark.
What was the chef smoking when he came up with that one?
Chef Ramsay describes the shark mozzarella as ghastly, which provokes more defensiveness from Nigel, who tells him he genuinely believes the food is good. Not getting anywhere with a defensive Nigel, Gordon decides to try a different approach. He orders Nigel's favorite dish on the menu, fillet beef. Martin allows Peter to cook the steak, so he can say he's cooked for one of the best chefs in the world. The steak arrives, and it looks like someone threw up on a plate. Apart from that, though, the steak was cooked nicely, according to Ramsay. Nigel seemed a bit down after the Michelin-starred chef judged his restaurant's cuisine, but he's staying positive.
It can only get better from here, can't it?
Christ. Yeah, definitely.
Gordon goes back to the kitchen to share his feedback with the chef and his nervous helper. He finds out the beef he ate was not British, and the shark was from the Indian Ocean. While this is happening, Ramsay notices that Pete and Paul aren't paying attention. Martin tells them to show some respect to Ramsay. Gordon tells Martin that he didn't really enjoy his pretentious lunch, and it wasn't modern British cuisine. It's no surprise that the huge restaurant is serving just 40 people on an average night. The only positive aspect of Chef Ramsay's entire lunch dining experience was...
the steak was cooked nicely.
Yeah.
Pink. It didn't need all the gunk around there.
Chef Ramsay's comment visibly delights Peter, boosting his confidence. However, the actual test lies ahead. To assess Chef Martin and his teenage apprentice's abilities under pressure, Gordon has booked 90 locals for dinner at the restaurant. This challenge will reveal whether Peter and colleagues can translate their potential into performance when it matters most. As the customers begin to arrive for service, Martin is confident he can easily handle 90 diners, which is less than half the restaurant's total capacity. As the evening progresses, the kitchen struggles to produce its array of gimmicky foreign dishes. Plates leave the kitchen at a sluggish pace, only to return shortly after, criticized for being cold. Martin begins to crumble under the mounting backlog of orders, exposing the team's weaknesses under pressure. Nigel can't afford a restaurant manager and is handling customer complaints himself, canceling the checks of diners who have been waiting more than 2 hours to eat. Describing the service as one of the worst nights of his life, Martin's confidence has left him entirely, and he feels that Ramsay has deliberately set him up to fail. He tells Nigel he's finished and storms out of the kitchen. Nigel follows and agrees that Gordon is to blame for the disastrous evening.
Why are you shouting? Why are you shouting?
Why have you done this to us?
Why have I what?
Why did you do this to us tonight?
Nigel is furious that Gordon brought 90 customers into the restaurant without giving them any notice, though, as Ramsay points out, 50 of them still hadn't been served at that point. Also, Nigel mentioned that the restaurant's main problem was a lack of customers. Gordon brought him customers, and now he's complaining it was too much? Calling the owner a weak man, Gordon tells him it's the overly complicated menu that's the problem. He just doesn't want to see it. Determined not to let the team down, Martin heads back into the kitchen and starts cooking again, and finishes the service. Gordon tells him to never give up and that he's determined to make the changes needed to save the business and the cooks' jobs. Ramsay's next move is to create a traditional menu that locals will find irresistible, and it starts with fresh produce from the area's farms. He takes Martin and his apprentices to dig up some vegetables, which they're going to cook with that afternoon. The boys throw themselves into their work before Gordon sits down with them and makes an admission. He has been in trouble himself as a teenager when he crashed an uninsured car. He created a career in cooking to stay out of trouble, and he sees potential in both of the teens to do the same. Back at the restaurant, Chef Ramsay has once again booked 90 customers, but this time he's created a menu that will be easy to serve. Local pork joints, roasted vegetables, and potatoes dauphinoise will be served at each table. The apprentice chefs will be carving and presenting the food tableside. Ramsay says he's letting the lads loose on the public. The evening goes smoothly, and Gordon commends Martin on the bond he has found between the team. He tells the boys that his 3 years working for Marco Pierre White as a teenager taught him that throwing yourself into your work keeps the rest of your life on track. The next morning, Gordon brings in some birds for the lads, homeless chickens in need of a coop. To get the front of house team working together, he tasked Nigel and the waitresses with building the birds a home. Ramsay needs Nigel to show he's a team player, but instead the project is a mess, and he can't take criticism even when he's clearly getting it wrong. Getting ready for another busy night, Gordon teaches the boys to cook a couple of classic dishes, and, having spotted some potential, trusts Pete on the grill. There are 100 booked, including a group of 48 air traffic controllers. Orders come in, and the starters for the large group go out. But food is sent to the wrong table, without Nigel noticing. For the next order, Martin spells out to the waitresses that it's for table 21, and she sends it to the wrong table again, as Martin watches on. It compounds the chaos, and diners start to complain. When the pressure really hits, Martin steps up, taking charge of both the kitchen and front of house teams. But Nigel is nowhere to be seen. He's actually outside, relaxing and doing some breathing exercises. When the food finally arrives, customers are happy, but Gordon is furious with Nigel. He accuses him of employing cheap labor and not offering the young servers any direction. The owner fights back, angering Ramsay further, and leading him to throw an uncharacteristically personal insult.
That's why you're in this shit, you fucking fat idiot!
Don't call me fat. You are a twat. Do you know that?
You stupid jumped-up idiot!
The staff watch on as a foul-mouthed argument continues, and their boss just walks away. The next morning, the two hot-headed restaurateurs have a calm chat to get their relationship back on track. Gordon encourages him to hire a restaurant manager and shares his plan for a local food fair, which will encourage local families to come to the venue and help establish a friendlier and more welcoming reputation. Inside, Gordon has asked the trainee chefs to put together a vegetable salad. All three options are delicious, and Ramsay asks the customers to choose which one will go on the menu. And the winner is Peter's. The locals are really enjoying the fair as the grounds of the Granary are packed with local families. But when Gordon inquires with Nigel if he's made any new bookings, Nigel says he hasn't yet. Therefore, Gordon has a final request of Nigel, handing him a white bag with something inside. Nigel comes out dressed in a chicken outfit in a last-ditch effort to entertain the visiting children. I guess desperate times require desperate measures. After the fun and games, it's time for the official relaunch, and Gordon reveals a new sign, complete with what Nigel thinks is a fat chicken, but actually...
That's a cock.
Thanks
And that's
very
what you've
much.
been all fucking week.
The kitchen team are inside, learning to prepare the new menu items, which are all quick and easy to cook, and classically British. To improve service, Gordon asks the waitress to step up and oversee all three dining rooms. Peter smirks as the chosen server speaks up, leading Gordon to remind him to be respectful and let his food do the talking. They get to work, and Ramsay is concerned that Martin is overconfident, though Nigel is doing well out front. The salads go down well, and starters leave the kitchen. Well, most of them, as some end up straight in the rubbish bin. Martin is sinking, and Chef Ramsay tells him to step up. Apprentice Paul, nicknamed the Chav, complains that Ramsay isn't helping and tells him to F off.
Sorry? Not helping us. Say that again? Did you tell me to fuck off?
Gordon is unimpressed, but trainee Pete steps in to calm the situation and get them back on track. Unfortunately, the food was not up to standard. One diner sent back 3 different dishes, all completely cold. The evening was a mess. Martin didn't manage to drive the service and couldn't cope with the customer numbers. But Nigel is clear that they will make Ramsay's new menu work. Gordon doesn't have much faith in the restaurant's future after the embarrassing display, and worries this new attitude means nothing without matching ability. 6 weeks later, Gordon drives back to Titchfield to return to the Granary. When he gets to the door, he's greeted by a smiling Nigel. They have 45 diners for lunch midweek, and the owner shares that bookings are picking up. But that's not the only change, though. Martin is leaving. Inspired by Gordon's visit, he's decided to start a government-funded workshop working with young people. Martin also says that Chav left to travel and work in the Lake District. Pete is doing well and remains focused. He carries himself with more confidence now, showing signs of increased maturity compared to his earlier, less experienced demeanor. As Gordon and Nigel sit down for lunch at their usual table, Gordon tries a new dish, local mullet broth, which he thinks is a million miles better. Nigel is confident that he will continue building the business successfully even without Martin, and he finally admits that he was wrong. He's been humbled. Back in the kitchen, Ramsay finds out that Pete was responsible for making the delicious soup and tells him there was just one problem with it. The portion was too small, and he wanted more, much to the apprentice's delight. As Chef Ramsay leaves the Granary for a second time, the air is thick with hope and determination. The transformation of the Granary seemed complete, ready for a new chapter. Pete, the young apprentice chef, watches the celebrity chef depart, a newfound confidence visible in his stance. With Martin and Chav leaving, and Nigel's future possibly uncertain, Pete emerges as the real winner. In December 2007, just a week before Christmas, Channel 4 aired the season finale of Kitchen Nightmares, featuring the Granary. Millions tuned in as Gordon Ramsay plonked himself down in Hampshire, sparking a surge of public interest. According to a local newspaper report, Nigel, watching the show for the first time as it aired, was horrified by how he was portrayed. He said, "It was the most stressful week of my life. If I had my time again, I would not go on the program. I am not happy about being humiliated." What worries Nigel the most is the nickname Fat Idiot, which Ramsay coined. "My friends call up and laugh about me being called a fat idiot, but that's how I will be known now. I'm the fat idiot from the Granary." Nigel wasn't the only one in the firing line. Head chef Martin took a beating for his ghastly cheesy shark, while his young offender protégés, dubbed Cocky and Chav, were dismissed as teen ASBOs. An ASBO, or Anti-Social Behavior Order, was a legal measure in the UK aimed at curbing unruly behavior, often associated with the chav stereotype, which was a derogatory term for young people perceived as disruptive or lower class. The article says that despite everything, Nigel remained grateful to Ramsay for turning the Granary around. He admitted, "They effectively set us up to look bad, but I do agree with his changes. I am grateful for Gordon's time and efforts." As 2007 came to a close, the Nieddus were hopeful for a brighter future for their newly spotlighted restaurant. But on January 5th, 2008, just days into the new year, an unsettling event shook the Granary. CCTV footage captured a shadowy figure throwing what Nigel later described as a flammable device that looked like a Molotov cocktail at the restaurant. Fortunately, the attempt failed, leaving behind only shattered glass and scorched rags as a reminder of the close call. A few days after the incident, Nigel left the UK and headed to Malaga, Spain. The sunny Costa del Sol was a stark contrast to the cozy Hampshire countryside where the Granary stood. He was there for a court battle over a housing development, a business matter that felt pressing at the time. On the chilly morning of Saturday, January 12, 2008, a car accelerated towards the Granary and violently collided with the structure. Not long after, flames erupted inside, engulfing the building in a fiery blaze. Fire crews were called just before 6:30 a.m., and around 60 firefighters from 9 different stations arrived to battle the blaze, which caused extensive damage to the restaurant's interior. Crews began fighting the fire on the ground floor and first floors before moving up to the accommodation area, which was fortunately empty at the time. Nigel, who was still in Spain, received the phone call from his wife, Sally Ann, at around 8:30 a.m. He told the Daily Echo, "A friend said I went completely white and nearly vomited. We have no idea why this happened. I have absolutely no idea who might be doing this. We've just been on Gordon Ramsay's Kitchen Nightmares, so millions of people are aware of the place." The police initially suggested that it could be the work of a lunatic with a grudge against Gordon Ramsay or a fan of his. However, they made it clear that there is nothing to suggest that these incidents are linked to the television program. After a sniffer dog found evidence indicating foul play, the case was treated as a criminal investigation. Investigators focused on a hole in the glass door, which they believed could have been the fire's starting point. Despite firefighters' efforts to prevent the fire from spreading to the roof, the Granary sustained severe internal damage and became unusable. To make matters worse, suspicions arose about Nigel potentially being responsible for the fire. The insurance company refused to pay out the £800,000 needed for repairs. "We were suddenly trying to fend off the bank, insurance company, local authorities, and even travelers who had started using the premises," Nigel said, reflecting on the difficult situation. Around the same time, the police forensic team digging into the blaze began to piece together clues about the culprit. Evidence increasingly pointed to Richard Bowman, a homeless drifter with a history of violent offenses. At 18, he had been involved in a park altercation where he punched someone who later died from his injuries after he stumbled and had a fatal fall, resulting in a manslaughter conviction. The judge at the time noted Bowman's string of prior offenses. He was sentenced to 21 months, but served only 11. Bowman's pattern of criminality continued after his release from jail. One night at the rowdy Prague Junction nightclub in Ferrum, an accidental bump led to another violent outburst. As the victim recounted, "I was in the toilets and felt a tap on my shoulder. I turned round and it was Richard Bowman. He headbutted me, then punched me twice in the face." The incident resulted in a 9-month sentence for Bowman. The police forensics team found Bowman's DNA at the scene of the Granary fire. With this crucial piece of evidence linking him to the arson, authorities issued a warrant for his arrest. The hunt for Richard Bowman was on, as investigators sought to bring the suspected arsonist to justice. Police first checked Bowman's workplace and then questioned his girlfriend, but by then he had disappeared. They soon learned he had sold his Audi TT in February 2008 and fled the country. Following the fire, the Granary was unable to reopen because the insurance company refused to honor its claim. Consequently, in October 2008, the decision was made to auction the building in its fire-damaged state. Following his stint in the restaurant business, Nigel formed Red Hot Green Limited, a distributor of imported radiant heating panels. A noticeably slimmed-down Nigel and his company were featured in a local newspaper article in 2014. The piece mentioned their installation of an intelligent heating system in a large business center, highlighting its efficiency and ability to control temperatures in individual offices, rather than relying on a central heating system. After a couple of years, Nigel pivoted again and joined Community Benefits Group, later renamed Bloom Finance, as their new CEO. He was promised an annual salary of £45,000, and he began his work with that assurance. For the next several months, Nigel worked full-time from various locations, sometimes in Bournemouth, sometimes from home, and later from a proper office. However, as time passed, a problem arose. Nigel wasn't receiving his promised salary. The situation came to a head on November 28, 2017, when Nigel was dismissed after nearly 8 months of unpaid work. Feeling wronged, he decided to take his case to an employment tribunal, which began an investigation into the wage theft claims. Meanwhile, almost 10 years had passed since Nigel's appearance on Kitchen Nightmares and the fire that followed. No arrests had been made, as Richard Bowman was still on the run. Nigel continued to face ongoing assumptions that he was involved in the fire for insurance money, which caused strain in his marriage. In April 2018, after 10 years on the run, authorities in Marbella, Spain, located Richard Bowman. Police noted he lived perhaps an ordinary existence, certainly without coming to the attention of the authorities in Spain in those 10 years or so. Nigel posted on Facebook at the time, "The wheels of justice turn slowly, but grind exceedingly fine." At first, Richard denied his involvement and pleaded not guilty. However, Nigel posted later in 2018, saying that Richard changed his plea to guilty, and that it took over 10 years, but at least we can finally draw a line under it. In the comments, Nigel expressed his frustration. Thousands of people, because of the Ramsay connection, and so-called friends and family that blatantly libeled and slandered us, saying we did it ourselves, can finally shut up. I hope they are truly ashamed of themselves. He added, "It's been a horrible 10 years. Now, finally able to breathe a sigh of relief, he happily celebrated his 50th birthday in August 2018, captioning a photo, "Best birthday cake ever." In September 2018, Richard Bowman was sentenced to 5 years in jail for setting fire to the Granary pub. He insisted an unknown source paid him £2,500 to do the job. Nigel posted to Facebook again, "I can remember someone I've seen just once 30 years ago, but this person I have never seen in my life. Yet he destroyed our lives so completely, and I still have absolutely no clue why." Nigel also spoke about the aftermath. The insurance company took a stance against us from the start, and we had people in the community turn against us. We had to cover hundreds of thousands of pounds of damage and have been financially crippled by this. He speculated that the high-profile nature of Gordon Ramsay's show could have sparked the attack, before adding, "Now we can hopefully start to rebuild some sort of a decent life." The following year, Nigel won the case for unpaid wages from his previous employer and received over £33,000 in compensation. Nigel, celebrating his 52nd birthday in 2020, appeared more relaxed and seemed to be enjoying life after the legal battles of the past 13 years. With the pandemic underway, Nigel shifted towards an online focus, launching his own YouTube channel called RevenueTube, with the goal of teaching people how to earn money online.
Hello and welcome to RevenueTube. RevenueTube is about giving you the keys you need to start and succeed at your own online business. In a minute, I'm going to show you a couple of very important features that make this tool pure gold and show you why you need it.
He made a bunch of videos, but only got 6 subscribers, and it looks like after a while he gave up on it and stopped uploading new content. Nigel also dove into the world of cryptocurrency, launching Zeminol Limited, with the goal of making crypto simpler, safer, and swifter. In addition to his other ventures, he launched his own mergers and acquisitions firm, the Astbury Group, which he still actively operates. Yet, not all was going well with his personal life. In 2022, Nigel posted that his wife was divorcing him, although he seemed to be taking it in good spirits, joking that now he would need to learn how to become social again. At the end of Ramsay's second visit to the Granary, head chef Martin White realized he had enough after 20 years in the catering industry. Working 16-hour days, working evenings, working weekends, it broke my soul, said Martin. However, transitioning into a new career would not be easy for him. Not long after he departed from the culinary world, he suffered a breakdown, followed by a messy breakup with his partner. In the years that followed, he worked a variety of jobs, from drug counselor to gardener. Yet he noticed his love of reading was drawing him into the world of learning. This puzzled Martin, as he never really enjoyed or did well in school as a boy growing up in Thornhill, Southampton. He left school when he was just 15 years old with no qualifications. Without having graduated with the proper credits, he began his late journey through academia by taking evening classes and then attending Andover College, where he gained a grade A for his extended project qualification in creative writing. He impressed his teachers, who encouraged him to apply for university as the next stage of his academic journey. But Martin was doubtful of his chances of being accepted. He had no other qualifications other than his EPQ certificate. Nevertheless, Martin was accepted on the strength of his submitted written work to the University of Winchester, where he graduated with a first-class Bachelor of Arts in Creative Writing. While he was there, he also won the university's prize for Best Fiction for a short story, The Society of Inverted Gentlemen, which has now been adopted as a screenplay and submitted to the BBC. Martin, who writes under the name M.J. White, has published a series of dystopian fantasy novels, such as The Phase, Journey to the Core. Now he's halfway through a master's degree at the university for creative writing. As someone who never engaged with school, I have to pinch myself when I think I am now a master's student, said Martin. More recently, he's organized an online anthology of writing, stories, poems, photography, and artwork called Just Breathe. The collection focuses on what makes people happy and includes works from various artists. Pete, on the other hand, stayed in the catering industry after his time at the Granary. In 2017, he was mentioned several times on the social media pages of his employer, Vanilla Catering. Based on these posts, it seems that Pete enjoys working there and that his employer appreciates having him on their team. Vanilla Catering is a full-service catering company located near Southampton, providing services for a wide range of events and functions. Unfortunately, there are no further updates on Pete's career or life after 2017, as no recent social media posts or other information could be found. Similarly, there is limited information about Paul, also known as Chav, after the episode. At the end of the show, it was mentioned that Paul had plans to work and travel in the Lake District, a scenic region in northern England. However, no further details about his experience or current situation are available. Despite the lack of recent updates, it is hoped that both Pete and Paul are doing well and have continued to grow and thrive in their personal and professional lives since their time at the Granary. Following extensive fire damage, the building housing the Granary was purchased by new owners who undertook repairs and restoration. Thanks to the quick response and efforts of the firefighters, who saved the building before the fire caused irreparable damage, the structure remained intact. Although the restaurant had closed its doors, the property has found a new purpose. The site and its building now serve as the headquarters for Silver Lining Communication Innovation, a local IT service provider. Some viewers have humorously pointed out the uncanny resemblance between Nigel, the owner of the Granary, and billionaire entrepreneur Elon Musk. These similarities are so striking that people have jokingly suggested that Nigel could be Musk's long-lost English cousin. From their shared preference for all-black attire, a style Musk is known for, to their seemingly identical laughs, the parallels between the two are undeniable. In fact, some have quipped that this episode of Kitchen Nightmares was actually Gordon Ramsay's secret attempt to help Elon Musk save his failing restaurant venture. Despite Ramsay's jabs at Nigel's weight during the episode, it appears he successfully shed the pounds not long after and has managed to maintain his weight loss. Nigel's last update on Facebook was in January of this year, where he posted a new picture of himself. It's been quite some time since his appearance on Kitchen Nightmares back in 2007, and one can't help but wonder about the lasting impact of that episode. Regardless, it must have been quite an unforgettable experience.